Imagine standing in the heart of ancient Rome surrounded by towering marble statues of mighty gods. Jupiter, Neptune, Mars, names that echo through history. But here's the secret. These gods, the powerful deities worshipped by the Romans, were not entirely their own. They were borrowed, reshaped, and in some cases, almost exact copies of the gods of ancient Greece. But why did Rome, a civilization so powerful, feel the need to adopt another culture's gods? And how did these deities change as they crossed from Greece to Rome? Tonight, we unravel the truth behind the Roman gods, how they were inspired, altered, and even made stronger by the empire that worshipped them. Let's begin.
The gods of Rome were once faceless, formless, and vast, spirits of nature, guardians of hearth and field, invisible forces shaping the lives of the early Romans. But as Rome expanded and its people came into contact with the grandeur of Greek civilization in the 6th century BC, something changed. They began to see their gods in human form. This transformation wasn't just about aesthetics, it reshaped Roman religion itself. The Romans, practical and disciplined, saw the beauty and mythology of Greece and adopted it as their own. They took the Greek gods, changed their names, and wove them into the fabric of Roman culture. But in doing so, they left their own mark on these deities, molding them to fit Rome's ideals of duty, power, and order.
In this series, we'll uncover the striking similarities and subtle differences between Greek and Roman gods, how some changed completely while others remained nearly the same. Let's begin with one of the most fascinating comparisons: Juno and Hera.
To rule over the heavens and the gods themselves, there must be a queen, a goddess of power, of protection, of divine authority. For the Greeks, that queen was Hera. For the Romans, she was Juno. At first glance, the two seem identical. Both are the wives of the king of the gods, Zeus and Jupiter. Both reign as the protectors of marriage and the family. Both are powerful and commanding. But beneath the surface is where the differences emerge. Hera in Greek mythology is often depicted as vengeful, fierce, and unrelenting. She is a goddess who punishes betrayal, who pursues Zeus's many lovers with merciless wrath. Even mortal women and their children suffer under her fury. To the Greeks, Hera embodied the raw emotional power of a scorned queen. Juno, however, is different. The Romans viewed her as a figure of grace, of dignity, of statehood itself. While she too was a guardian of marriage, she was also deeply tied to the well-being of Rome. She was not just a wife, she was a counselor, a protector, and a patroness of the Roman people. Where Hera was feared, Juno was revered. Perhaps this is a reflection of the cultures themselves. The Greeks saw their gods as deeply human, with flaws and tempers that mirrored their own. The Romans, on the other hand, valued duty, structure, and the strength of the state above all else, and their gods followed suit. And so Juno was not merely Hera under a different name. She was a goddess transformed, reshaped to fit the ideals of Rome. But if Juno was Rome's queen of the heavens, then who ruled the seas? That title belonged to Neptune, the Roman counterpart of Poseidon. And as we will see next, his story is not quite the same as his Greek predecessors. The sea has always been a force of mystery and power, unpredictable and untamed. The Greeks and Romans both understood this, and they gave this domain to a mighty god. For the Greeks, he was Poseidon. For the Romans, he was Neptune. At first glance, they seem like the same deity. Both ruled over the oceans, both wielded a powerful trident, and both commanded the storms and waves. But their origins tell a different story. Poseidon was more than just the god of the sea. To the Greeks, he was also the god of earthquakes, horses, and raw, untamed force. He was unpredictable, quick to anger, and capable of shaking the earth itself when enraged. He was feared as much as he was worshipped. Neptune, however, had a different beginning. Originally, he was not a sea god at all. In early Roman religion, he was a god of freshwater, lakes, rivers, and springs. It wasn't until around 399 BC that the Romans fully associated him with Poseidon and the sea. Even then, Neptune lacked the violent, unpredictable nature of his Greek counterpart. He was a powerful god, but he was more of a ruler than a wild force of nature. This shift reflects Rome's perspective on power. While the Greeks saw their gods as passionate and volatile, the Romans valued structure and dominion. Their Neptune was a lord of the waters, not a raging storm. But if Neptune ruled the sea, then who ruled over love and beauty among the Greeks? It was the radiant Aphrodite. For the Romans, it was Venus. And just like Neptune, Venus took on a role unique to Rome. Love, beauty, and desire have always been among the most powerful forces in human history. To the Greeks, these were embodied in Aphrodite, the goddess of love and passion. To the Romans, she became Venus. At first glance, the two seem identical, each a vision of beauty, each possessing an irresistible charm that could sway gods and mortals alike. Aphrodite was primarily the goddess of love, beauty, and attraction. Her myths often revolved around romance, seduction, and divine drama. She was born from the sea foam, and her very presence could incite love and longing. Her power was undeniable, but it was focused almost entirely on matters of the heart. Venus, however, took on a broader role in Roman society. She was not just the goddess of love, she was the goddess of fertility, prosperity, and even victory. The Romans saw her as a divine ancestor, with Julius Caesar himself claiming descent from her through Aeneas, the legendary Trojan hero. She was worshipped not just in matters of love, but also as a protector of the Roman people, ensuring their success and expansion. This difference reveals much about the Greeks and Romans. The Greeks saw love as something personal, something intimate. The Romans, ever practical and ambitious, saw love as a force that could shape empires. To them, Venus was more than beauty. She was power. However, power comes in many forms for the Romans. One known form is something we know and understand even to this day, something all humans have heard or seen in their life. War, it is destruction, it is chaos. But for the Romans, it was also power, conquest, and the foundation of their empire. And at the heart of war stood a god. To the Greeks, he was Ares, a figure of violence and bloodshed. To the Romans, he was Mars, the god who shaped the destiny of Rome itself. At first glance, they seem alike. Both wield weapons, both are sons of Jupiter or Zeus, and both revel in battle. But where Ares was feared, Mars was honored. In Greek mythology, Ares was not a noble god. He was unpredictable, driven by rage, and often humiliated in myths. Even among the gods, he was an outcast, representing the reckless destruction of war rather than its discipline. The Greeks respected Athena, the goddess of strategic warfare, far more than Ares, whose presence often meant nothing but ruin. Mars, however, was different. He was not just the god of war, he was the god of Rome's might. The Romans saw war as necessary, as a means to expand and secure their empire. Mars was a protector, a father to Rome itself, as the legendary Romulus and Remus, founders of the city, were said to be his sons. Unlike Ares, Mars was not just destruction, he was victory, order, and the very spirit of Roman ambition. And so, while Ares was a god of war, Mars was a god of conquest, a reflection of Rome itself, not just fighting battles, but winning them. But even in war, the gods needed a leader, a ruler to command both the heavens and the earth. And that brings us to Jupiter, the greatest of them all. At the very top of Mount Olympus and the Roman pantheon stood a single, all-powerful figure, the king of the gods, the god of the sky, thunder, and order. For the Greeks, he was Zeus. For the Romans, he was Jupiter. Unlike many other Roman gods, Jupiter was almost a direct copy of Zeus. Their attributes, their myths, and their dominion over the heavens were nearly identical. Both wielded the thunderbolt. Both ruled with absolute authority. Both were known for their wisdom, but also for their many affairs. But while Zeus was often portrayed as a god with human flaws, prone to anger, deception, and impulsive decisions, Jupiter was something more. The Romans saw their chief deity as the embodiment of law, order, and the stability of Rome itself. He was not just a ruler of the gods, he was a divine symbol of Roman strength and governance. Jupiter was deeply tied to the state, with grand temples and rituals dedicated to him. His favor was sought before battles, during elections, and in times of crisis. He was not just a king of Olympus, he was a protector of Rome. And this is where we see the greatest difference between Greek and Roman mythology. The Greek gods were deeply human, with emotions, rivalries, and unpredictable natures. The Roman gods, though borrowed from Greece, were reshaped to fit Rome's ideals: discipline, strength, and the unshakable power of an empire. So while Zeus and Jupiter may seem the same, they represent two very different worlds, one of mythology and storytelling, the other of conquest and empire.
And so we see that while Rome borrowed from Greece, it did not merely copy, it transformed. It took the myths and legends of an older civilization and reshaped them into something new, something distinctly Roman. Perhaps that is the greatest power of Rome, the ability to take what came before and forge it into something greater. This is the truth of Roman gods. I hope you enjoyed this journey through the gods of Greece and Rome. If you know of other Roman deities with Greek counterparts, share them in the comments below. And if you want to explore more myths and legends, don't forget to like and subscribe